Imagine for a second growing up as an army kid. You're constantly transferring, packing up, moving schools, moving cities. It means your friendships and your external relationships, they're literally always in flux. For the creator we're analyzing today, Adete Dehia, this constant movement sparked a pretty profound realization super early on. The absolute only constant you truly have in your life is yourself. Because of that, she realized she had to become her own best friend. But as she totally admits, simply knowing that and actually doing it, yeah, those are two very different things. So welcome to today's Explainer, where we're breaking down a literal masterclass in psychological self-advocacy. We're going to learn how to transform our mundane daily routines into really profound acts of self-worth. Now, the core kind of counterintuitive premise of her entire philosophy is this. It's incredibly easy to just assume we automatically love ourselves simply because, well, we are ourselves, right? But take a step back and really look at your habits. Listen to your internal self-talk. If you're just coasting on autopilot, chances are a lot of that dialogue is pretty negative. The truth is, you are never going to truly have a loving relationship with yourself until you actively, consciously decide to build one. Okay, let's dive right into this roadmap. We're going to map out the journey from a negative default state to true autonomy through 5 key areas. First up, the autopilot problem. Then, drawing firm emotional boundaries. Third, investing in health and wealth. Fourth, the art of dating yourself. And finally, taking space and celebrating wins. Starting things off with part 1, the autopilot problem, and recognizing negative habits. You see, when we exist on autopilot, we stay stuck in these repetitive cycles that simply do not serve us. We're basically just waiting for permission to live our lives instead of actively shaping them. Breaking out of this requires some serious intentional habit building. Which brings us to section 2, drawing firm emotional boundaries and protecting your inner peace. Listen, before you can build a beautiful relationship with yourself, you have to build a protective moat around that peace. And let's be totally real here. Enforcing boundaries, it is deeply, deeply uncomfortable. But honestly, it's the most absolutely critical act of self-love you can practice. Consider for a moment the cultural expectation of compliance. For a young woman living in India, the pressure to just go along with what parents or partners want can be intense, to say the least. Aditi shares how she faced relentless pressure to agree to an arranged marriage setup. But instead of abandoning herself just to keep the peace and please everyone else, she chose the much harder path of sticking up for herself. She firmly said no. And not just once, for 5 to 6 years straight, until the pressure finally stopped. She even made the incredibly heavy decision to move out of her parents' house when things got to be too much. But by sticking to her guns, she gained the ultimate empowerment, figuring out what she actually wanted out of life. But boundaries aren't just about those massive life choices. They're also about your everyday emotional energy. It is so easy, especially with the people we absolutely love, to just absorb their pain as our own. We lose sleep, we endlessly overthink their problems, we literally carry their bad moods around with us. But here's the thing, taking on someone else's emotional weight just leaves you drained, resentful, and completely disconnected from your own feelings. Holding space for someone without actually carrying their burden isn't selfish. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite of selfish. It's what allows you to show up fully for the people who matter most. So, what does this actually look like in practice? Here are the active steps to unlearn that habit of making other people's problems your own. First, just pause and physically ask yourself, is this my burden to carry? Learn to listen to someone vent without soaking up the weight like a sponge. And if you genuinely don't have the mental energy to hold space for them right at that moment, just communicate your capacity up front so neither of you ends up resentful. And I absolutely love this physical tactic she mentions. If you've just had a super draining conversation, go take a shower, literally. Use the water to cut that mental connection and just wash away that lingering heavy energy. It works wonders. Once we've got those defensive boundaries locked in, we can start shifting to proactive investments. So, section 3, investing in health and wealth, and building the core foundations. Because taking care of your financial and physical core, that's not just being responsible, it's a non-negotiable act of self-love. And this brilliantly illustrates the psychological evolution of our relationship with money. Think about it. Growing up, money might have been heavily tied to guilt. That classic scarcity mindset where spending anything on yourself felt totally selfish. Then you hit that early career phase. The money finally starts coming in, and boom, that deprivation suddenly turns into impulsive spending. You blow the whole paycheck on eating out, buying random stuff online, leaving you earning decent money but somehow constantly feeling broke and anxious. It's a trap. It really takes intentional therapy and healing to break that cycle, to finally understand your worth, stop feeling guilty for wanting wealth, and step into true financial stability and investing. This whole pivot from financial health over to physical health is beautifully anchored by this one profound realization. A healthy person wants 1,000 things, but an unhealthy person wants just one thing. Let that sink in. When your body isn't okay, absolutely nothing else matters. You can't be creative, you can't show up for work, and your relationships, they're definitely going to suffer. When we break down the specific, proactive health steps required to really honor that truth, it looks something like this. Paying for a monthly Pilates or gym membership, that builds both physical and emotional strength. Paying for a habit tracking app, it gives you mindful data without it turning into an unhealthy obsession. And scheduling regular blood work, that ensures you catch issues early rather than scrambling to deal with them when they become huge emergencies. The mindset shift here is an absolute game changer. You have to stop seeing these things as expenses. They are vital, long-term investments in the one single body we get from birth to death. We honestly owe it to ourselves to give our bodies as much care as they give us. Okay, now we transition to the smaller, daily rituals of self-worth. Section 4, the art of dating yourself and spending intentional time. This is really all about exploring exactly how we show up for ourselves when absolutely nobody else is watching. For the longest time, the creator saw herself as a quintessential low-maintenance girly. You know the vibe. Hair in a messy bun, just throwing on whatever clean clothes were lying around. But as she realized, how we present ourselves on the outside is so often a mirror of how we're feeling on the inside. By consciously buying nice, colorful clothes specifically to wear at home and putting on a bit of eyeliner after her morning skincare routine, dressing up became this vital, non-negotiable daily ritual. It isn't a performance for guests, it isn't for Instagram, it's just a quiet, powerful way of being present and telling yourself, hey, I'm worth the effort today. And that intentionality totally extends outside the house too, through solo dates. Think about it. When you always do things in groups, you're constantly accommodating other people. You can actually end up forgetting what you personally enjoy. So she suggests starting small. Visit a coffee shop you actually like. Go watch a movie in the theater without having to convince someone else it's a good pick. And step 3, which she admits is often the hardest, try going for a walk outside without your headphones. Just sit with your own thoughts for a bit. We have to stop relying on external input or other people's preferences to validate our own existence. Which perfectly sets up our final section today. Section 5, taking space and celebrating wins, and stepping into your power. This is where we move from all that internal healing and those private rituals over to external validation, taking up space in the world completely unapologetically. Let's look at how this internal work actually translates into outward behavior. Growing up, we're so often taught that being a good person means staying small, staying quiet, and definitely not making waves. But shrinking yourself just to fit into spaces that don't even respect you, that isn't kindness. Taking up space means making content, being vocal, and yeah, sometimes sharing unpopular opinions. But it's not just about being loud for the sake of being loud. It's about a quiet, unshakable confidence. It's staying rooted in what you believe without feeling the desperate need to convince anyone else, simply knowing that your voice and your presence truly matter. And a massive part of knowing your presence matters is how you treat your own successes. So many of us carry around this unlearned childhood habit where achievements are just instantly brushed off. You do well at something and the immediate internal response is, okay, good, what's next? There's literally no pause, no celebration. We have got to stop living life like it's some never-ending checklist and start living like these moments actually mean something. You do this by intentionally tying your milestones to real, tangible moments of joy. For example, a date promised herself a diamond bracelet when she hit a specific weight goal. And it wasn't because she just desperately needed the jewelry. It was because she wanted to anchor that achievement to a physical, tangible celebration. When you actively become your own hype woman, it makes the whole journey feel real. 5 years down the line, you're going to look at that bracelet and remember exactly how momentous that achievement felt, entirely free from the need for anyone else to validate it for you. So, what does this all mean? The absolutely crucial takeaway here is this. Building conscious self-worth is not an accident, and it sure doesn't happen overnight. It requires actively dismantling that autopilot problem, drawing incredibly firm boundaries to protect your peace, investing deeply in your health and wealth, genuinely cherishing your own company, and unapologetically celebrating your wins. The only question left is this. Are you still waiting around for permission to live your life, or are you finally ready to do the work and become your own best friend?